This is algorithm intervention. You've got 8 seconds to understand. First, attention is shrinking. Second, distraction is a business model. Third, ADHD is a cultural marker, not your personal glitch. This is Noji, a podcast brought to you by the Noji app right from the underground of EdTech. Here we connect the dots and hopefully connect with you. This episode is special because we finally got to the hottest topic on our list. Why the hottest? Well, ADHD is not just an empty sound for the Noji creative team. We are either first Zoomers or last millennials here, feeling liminal between digital and real world, since some of us even remembered glimpses of offline childhood. So, last year, we started developing the brand of Noji. To adjust the narrative of how exactly we make the world a better place as yet another app. We started from the strategic question. What do different segments of our audience have in common? Mostly students and learners of all sorts. And while answering this question, we stumbled across something very real to the point of being surreal. The answer came as a revelation, as easy as recognizing yourself in a mirror. ADHD is what connects us all. And by this code name, we mean fragmented attention, internet addiction, instant gratification, overstimulation, and so on and on. We realized ADHD wasn't just a diagnosis turned meme, it was a market condition. And it is. So, a little disclaimer is needed here. We approach the attention deficit epidemic from anthropological and cultural POVs. If your ADHD is on the heavier side or you're really into it, this episode might make you feel less special, but instead, look how special the whole generation is. It is very easy to get diagnosed these days, and even easier, self-diagnosed. Seems wild how the whole world keeps importing trends from the US, including the ADHD epidemic, when the same country can't even run a functional healthcare system and is best known for turning medicine into profit and perversion. The recent article in the New York Times magazine called "Have We Been Thinking About ADHD All Wrong?" is a perfect mess. It shows the growing disconnect between the new scientific theories about ADHD and the way it is still being treated. The main idea is that what was originally thought of as a biological phenomenon may in fact be rooted in the environment. The article also goes into the history of pharmaceutical treatments for ADHD. In the 90s, Ritalin or methylphenidate became the leading drug for hyperactive kids. And then the trajectory is predictable. As treatment became more available, cases exploded. Diagnosis jumped from 5.5% in 1997 to 6.6% in 2000. The latest CDC report says that 11.4% of Americans are now diagnosed with ADHD. From 2012 to 2022, the number of stimulant prescriptions in the US grew by 58%. Ironically, the real growth market today is adults. In 2012, about 5 million Americans in their 30s were prescribed stimulants, and by 2022, that number had hit 18 million. Wow, people love crazy legal things, and the history of drugs knows many such cases. Adderall is a behavior-modifying drug in the world that is obsessed with maxifying efficiency and productivity, even if by productivity we mean making more posts on social media. If you have listened to the second episode of Noji, you feel the idea. Self-help culture is the greatest intervention of capitalism. We are working, shopping, and self-improving without questioning the status quo. Unable to keep up, we look for a magic pill. Quite literally.
Wrote my thesis in undergrad. I had, a year to write it, and I wrote most of it in probably 2 or 3 days by taking a lot of Adderall.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about
and not
that.
sleeping, and my thesis was okay, but again, with the behavior, it does help you focus on tasks that you don't want to do.
Exactly.
And so I was able to self-medicate and use the meth
to execute dull and tedious tasks that you weren't naturally inclined to do.
To be productive.
Yeah.
But I would have fared better if I
you
had the will.
An organic interest in the subject matter.
Organic interest is born from boredom, being able to concentrate, and healthy dopamine response. The book Dopamine Nation by Dr. Anna Lembke, psychiatrist and addiction specialist at Stanford University, explores how modern society, constant access to pleasurable stimuli, affects our brains, leading to overconsumption, addiction, and unhappiness. This is how Dr. Lemke commented on the rise of prescription rates.
We're seeing an expansion in the age groups for which doctors are prescribing stimulants into much, much younger age groups, kids as young as 2 years old, and also older age groups. So they're really only FDA approved for the treatment of teen or adolescent ADHD, but now we're seeing lots of adults who are getting initiated onto stimulants for ADHD, despite that previously not being common practice. Previously, you had to have this diagnosis of ADHD or ADD from early on, as evaluated by your parents, teachers, doctors, a comprehensive evaluation. Now you can walk into these, they're kind of like stimulant clinics, frankly, where you can just sort of do your own little survey that they give you, and if you get a high enough score, you can walk out with a stimulant prescription. And I mean, I think that's really dangerous and really poor care, and I'm very concerned at the rate at which stimulant use and stimulant prescribing has gone up in this country.
In the Dopamine Nation, Lemke suggests that addiction isn't limited to substances like drugs or alcohol. Behaviors form addictions too, and as a Dopamine Nation, we're addicted to intensity itself. But wait, what has been the most intense thing to happen to us as a generation? It's the internet addiction that has changed us most. Medium is the message, famously said Marshall McLuhan in 1964 in his book Understanding Media, The Extensions of Man. He meant that the form of a medium is more influential than the actual content it carries. In the 60s, McLuhan was of course referring to television. Quote, "In television, images are projected at you. You are the screen. The images wrap around you. You are the vanishing point." In the aftermath of the Great Depression and World War II, the dominant psychological structure became narcissistic, as described by Christopher Lasch. A fragile self heavily dependent on external validations and symbolic recognition. Television, arriving in this cultural landscape, was not simply entertainment, it became a medium for managing identity. Through the virtual window, TV offered curated realities promising escape, success, and emotional repair. However, the internet structure of television, built around advertisement and fragmented narratives, only destabilizes viewers' ego. The logic of TV was not to resolve desire, but to perpetuate it. It stimulated longing, manufactured dissatisfaction, and positioned consumption as a primary coping tool. Changing the form of a medium changes everything. Neil Postman picked up where McLuhan left off. In Amusing Ourselves to Death, 1985, he warned that television was transforming public discourse. His quote, "The medium is the metaphor. Our politics, religion, news, athletics, education, and commerce have transformed into a congenial adjunct of show business." Online, the logic of television exploded into something even more chaotic. Every user became both performer and observer. Internet has gone from being a utopia where everything was possible to a place full of angry people obsessed with their own representation. In his documentary Hypernormalization, Adam Curtis takes Postman's concerns to political and conspiratorial levels. He shows that fragmentation creates a strange psychological state where people know the world is chaotic and out of control, but keep acting like it's normal. And it's not just political illusions that grow from this, it's personal ones too. As Paul Virilio argues in Speed and Politics 1977, speed is not just a side effect of modernity, it's a form of control. Whoever controls the speed, controls the story. In The Shallows, 2010, Nicholas Carr explains how the internet is changing how our brains work, and not in a good way. He says that the brain is flexible or plastic, meaning it rewires itself based on how we use it. Because the internet pushes us to jump quickly from link to link, scan headlines, and multitask, It's training our brains to be good at fast, shallow thinking, but worse at deep focus and reflection. Carr writes, "What the net seems to be doing is chipping away my capacity for concentration and contemplation." He points out that in the past, reading books and long articles helped people develop deep, focused thinking. Now, constant interruptions make it harder to stay with one thought. He puts it, "We become mindless consumers of data." This chain of thought only strengthens the cultural plus environmental nature of attention deficit epidemic. So perhaps what we consider ADHD in adults is, in fact, a media overdose. Not a malfunction, but an evolution? And if so, then the most ADHD of us are the most upgraded? This is how Nicholas Carr himself has to say about that.
Because even if we adapt, that doesn't mean that we end up better people or better thinkers after that process of adaptation. And if we look at what the internet and all this technology is actually doing to the way we think, the picture gets much, much darker. And it all has to do with how our brains transform information, mere information, into knowledge, giving us the ability to think deeply, to think rich thoughts, to think conceptually and critically.
While promoting Noji, we also promote deep learning, the idea of showing up for yourself daily, sitting down, studying flashcards and space sessions, and connecting the dots of knowledge. Building real long-term understanding versus cramming for an exam just to forget everything, including how stressful it was. It's a liberating experience to study mindfully. AI can generate instant gratification flashcards for you, but you can never replace the studying part. Noji could be your daily exercise in attention, which is the beginning of devotion. Basically, in order for your brain to produce healthy dopamine, you need to engage in activities that are challenging, meaningful, and slow. Okay, easy. We don't deny that clinical ADHD exists. We just pointed out that our entire culture is now shaped in the ways that mimic or worsen ADHD symptoms, making it hard to tell where biology ends and environment begins. A new attention for attention is needed. We need to admit and manage overstimulation, not just normalize and mitigate symptoms over and over again. Always, and especially for this topic, we want to hear from you. DM us your stories or leave a comment. Have you been diagnosed or self-diagnosed? Do you think everyone is on the spectrum now? How do you experience attention in the digital world? And what actually helps you to stay focused, if anything? If we get enough responses, we'll make a part 2 on the attention deficit epidemic. Because the shit is real, and the topic is starting to feel like a hyper object. Too big, too complex, almost impossible to grasp. But maybe it's just the ADHD talking. Always logged in, yet lost, confused, diagnosed, dopamine loops, endless scrolls, speeding up to the point of dizziness or longing for analog. Something real, something quiet. The only way out is in. Go diving, not surfing, not fixing yourself, just growing, not healing, evolving. More doing, less planning, learning, not cramming.